Well, good evening, everyone. For those who may not know me, particularly those who deal primarily with Mark, my name is Jim Fay. And we thank you for taking time out of your evening to join us for our first webinar. We've actually done a Zoom call before this, but this is our first webinar. We hope to be able to schedule these types of presentations on a fairly regular basis. A little more formal going forward in terms of factual information that may be helpful to you. But again, this is our introductory webinar for this year. Going to take some time introducing different staff, introducing some different changes that we've had going forward with the industry and the business. So again, we thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. A couple of housekeeping things first and foremost. Mark Hood was supposed to be joining us this evening, but Mark has had some scheduling difficulties, so he's not going to be able to make it. So for those of you who wanted to see Mark, we're sorry about that, but he'll certainly follow up with you next week if you had any questions or concerns. Secondly, on the webinar itself, on the bottom of your screen, there'll be an area for you to click on to ask any questions. We ask you certainly to type in any questions that you may have. One note on that, please don't make them specific to your personal situation because they will be seen by everyone. But if you do have some generic questions, or even if you want us to get in contact with you next week, please note that and we'll follow up. If there's any questions that we can answer today, we'll certainly do that. But once again, if we run out of time, we'll follow up at the next week and get back to you from that standpoint. The only people who will be able to speak will be the presenters today. So all of you non-presenters will be muted, so please don't be insulted by that. And then at the end of the webinar, we are going to put up a piece that's going to show our contact information. Almost all of you have it, but just as a reminder or a refresher about how to contact us here in the office. So let me give you a little background of where we're at. As many of you have noted, our name has changed from Cambridge Investment Research to Athlon Advisors. That certainly does not mean any change in the way we've done business, the services, and the relationship that we have with one another. To kind of give you a little bit of a background to how things have changed, certainly since COVID hit, the world has changed in many ways, and our industry has certainly changed as well. We've tried to be creative to work under the guidelines of COVID, to try to maintain business as usual, but as all of us have felt, it's been challenging over these past few years. But what we've done, in a sense, is because of the regulatory environment that we work under in our industry, because of technology demands and technology needs that we have, as well as the ever-changing economic and investment environment. Very simply, what we've done is we spent a considerable amount of time, and we have a new relationship going forward. For those of you who are Irish and like clovers, look at this as like a four-leaf clover. The one component of the four-leaf clover is the overall broker-dealer that we're affiliated with, which is Cambridge Investment Research. So they're staying with us, and they are, in a sense, the flagship that we work under. But we've added three other clovers to that. First and foremost, what we have with that is we have our office here in State College. Now we have another clover that we've added in Columbia, Maryland. That group is our Office of Supervisory Jurisdiction, as they say. And so they're with us in this relationship. And then the fourth clover we have is an office out of Denton, Texas. So some people describe it as a three-headed monster. I wouldn't be that negative. I like the positive more of a four-leaf clover in terms of how that works. But we're pretty excited moving forward in a sense that this is providing us with a fairly sophisticated, well-educated, well-motivated team of individuals that will be able to provide financial planning services for you as we move forward. And throughout this webinar today, we're going to reintroduce or introduce some of the players involved, talk a little more in detail about some of the expertise that they're going to be able to bring to the table, maybe some factual background in terms of how our industry operates and how it goes forward. And then what we'll be able to do, and you'll find the services that we have certainly been enhanced. So some of you have already experienced some of the changes that we've seen, not only in and of itself with our name, but we also have a web page. And for those of you who have been on our back, so to speak, for years about not having a web page, well, now we've graduated to the 21st century and beyond with a web page. And again, you'll see that in our communications at the end of the webinar here, you'll see that address, and you'll be able to see not only our team here in State College, but the team in Maryland and the team in Texas, and we'll expand on the services that we offer. You're also going to find as we move forward that our wealth management services have certainly expanded. We have new software programs in terms of financial planning that we're going to be utilizing. Some of you have experienced the Money Guide Pro concept. We've expanded that now to a different firm or a different software program called eMoney. And we'll be talking about this relationship and how it's going to benefit you and us in terms of helping you out. Our insurance division has expanded tenfold almost in a sense of what we're able to do on the insurance side. And one of my colleagues, Chris Shipsky down in Maryland, is going to speak a little bit more about some of those services. We also have a tax division now that we work with, not only on tax preparation, but also clarification of tax law and tax issues. So again, as we move forward in time, any questions you have related to taxes, we have a wealth of knowledge that we can tap into that will be able to help us moving forward with that. So we're really excited about what we're going to be able to do here in State College, because most of you finding out what's going on here. Very simply, our staffing has changed a little bit. Some of you have known some of our previous office managers, some of more recently, member Lisa Schultz. Well, Lisa has decided that retirement was for her and she moved on, but we've added some staff. First and foremost, we've added Grace Hockenberry. And Grace, if you want to say hi to the folks.
Hi, everybody. It's welcome. I'm glad to be on board. I'm excited to meet everyone and talk to everyone and get to know everyone. And I'm here if you need me.
Thank you. Grace is a recent Penn State grad, and she's a different generation than the rest of us. So we're kind of excited to have her new ideas and her energy, and she's able to bring us up to speed about what we need to do. Again, Mark is not able to be here today, so he'll be following up with those of you who deal with Mark directly. In addition to that, you've seen the name Wendy Fay, who has been my partner in life for 40 plus years. So she's jumped on board and helping us out. And I think Special Projects is your title, right?
Yes, Special Projects.
Right. So over time, many of you may be interacting with Wendy as well. Chris Barr is also a member of our team as well, for those of you who've interacted with Chris in the past. And again, you may have some future interactions with Chris. We are looking at adding more staff, so we're very excited. Even though there's turbulent times in the world, we're certainly able to move and expand forward from that standpoint. The office here, our hours, pretty simply, are 9 to 5. Grace is the head of that operation, and she'll be manning the shop from that perspective. But we've also expanded, for many of you have experienced the whole Zoom concept, and we've certainly embraced that. And we still offer that as an option for meetings for those of you who cannot make it here. We can't make to your place, or you're more comfortable from that position. Some of you have seen the expansion into the e-signature component for paperwork. And we're excited that we're able to use that if we can. For those of you who have sat in on meetings and seen the volumes of paperwork that we go through, this is certainly much more efficient to use the e-signature concept. For those concerned about the environment, it's certainly much more environmentally positive. So we're very excited to bring that on board from that perspective. So the way we operate, it's business as usual. It's just different in a sense that we have much more support. We have moved up the level of sophistication, as I said earlier, of what we're able to do for you in the financial planning world. And we're very excited about the expansive team that we have on board. So from that position, what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce some folks down in the Columbia, Maryland office. And is Mike Engler available?
I'm right here.
All right, Mike. Mike is one of the co-founders of Athlon down in Columbia, Maryland. He has a wealth of experience, and so I'm going to turn the table over to him so he can share his expertise.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. I'm not going to tell you how long I've been in the business because that would clue you all into how old I am. But I did get in the business sometime after the Civil War. So I get the least sexy topic here, but it's a very important topic. Everybody else is going to talk about investments and insurance and all those more sexy kind of things. But what I'm going to talk about is really just to give you some information that you may or may not know that is important to you and your portfolio and your accounts, particularly at times like this, when we've got a major war going on and uncertainty in the economy and things like that. The question that gets asked is really, how safe is my money? If I give you my money or I have my money with you or I invest with you, so like that, how safe is it? So I'm going to go through some of the little known facts in the industry about revolving around that topic. So this industry, and us in particular, there are basically two primary regulators out there. The first is the Securities Exchange Commission, which you've probably heard of. The second we know as FINRA, or the Financial Regulatory Authority. There are some secondary regulators, and those might be regulators in the state in which you live or reside. In our case, we're in Maryland. Jim and his crew are in Pennsylvania. Mike Woods is down in Texas, and we certainly have advisors in many other states. So state regulators do play a role in this also, but the two primary regulators are the Securities Exchange Commission and FINRA. So they have enacted, and our industry is one of the most heavily regulated industries in the country. And so we all sort of complain a little bit about that, but most of those regulations are meant to protect you, the investing public, from the bad apples in our industry. If you did not know it, and you may have seen signs in Jim's office or anybody else's office like that, this is SIPC. SIPC stands for the Securities Investors Protection Corporation. They insure your investment accounts up to $10 million. Now, they do not insure you against loss of your investments. In other words, whether you have a good or bad investment, or you lose money because the investment is bad, but they insure you against firms like Athlon, Cambridge, or any other firms that you may deal with from going out of business and you losing your money that way. Okay, so your accounts are all insured up to $10 million. Now, if Jim and Mark manage to increase your accounts to more than $10 million, which I think is a reasonable expectation of them from you, okay, additional insurance can be added on to that to protect you for larger amounts. So all insurance all your accounts are covered by SIPC insurance. You've noticed the name Cambridge Investment Research. So in the independent channel, or the independent advisory part of the business, we are required to be associated with a broker-dealer. So what you don't know is in the industry, advisors get licenses, but they do not hold licenses. Licenses by law and by regulation have to be held by a broker-dealer firm. In our case, the broker-dealer that we are all attached to is Cambridge Investment Research, an independent broker-dealer out of Fairfield, Iowa, a little town in the middle of cornfields in the middle of nowhere. Okay, but a great broker-dealer. Okay, so all our licenses are held by them, and that broker-dealer's primary responsibility is compliance and oversight. In other words, to make sure we follow the rules and regulations and don't break the law. So you'll see that name, Cambridge Investment Research, on statements, business cards, disclaimers, all that kind of stuff like that. In addition, you might also see what's known as custodial firms. Now, firms like Athlon, the firm I'm associated with in Columbia, Maryland, the offices in State College, Texas, or anything else like that, and Cambridge itself are not classified as custodial firms. In other words, they cannot hold money and investments directly. They can process money and investments, and they can be the conduit. But there are firms out there that are sanctioned and licensed by the regulatory authorities, specifically the Securities Exchange Commission, that are designed to be what's known as custodial firms. So you may also see in your statements and literature and things like that, two primary firms which we deal with. One is what's known as FCCS. That's a fidelity company. I think that stands for Fidelity Custody and Clearing Services, formerly known as National Financial Services, but it's a fidelity company. Second firm you may see is called Pershing. Pershing is a subsidiary company of BNY Mellon Bank Corporation. And then you also, if you are doing direct business with mutual funds and things like that, those firms are also sanctioned as custodian firms in many, many cases. So typically when you're doing business with Jim or Mark or any of us, you may have noticed that you will never write a check to Jim. You will never write a check to Athlon. You will never write a check to Cambridge. You write a check to a firm that is a licensed custodian firm, whether it be Fidelity, Pershing, or a mutual fund company, or some other entity. Okay, that is for consumer protection. So that your money, we sort of avoid the Bernie Madoff type of scandals in our industry. Okay, so those firms are very, very important, and we have contracted with them through our broker dealer, Cambridge, to use those firms for custody of money and securities and investments. Now, an exception to the rule is the insurance products. So if you do variable annuities, any kind of insurance company product, insurance is regulated very differently than the investment world, okay? Insurance firms are generally regulated more by states than by a federal regulator. So state insurance departments, so it'd be the insurance departments in the state of Pennsylvania, Texas, Maryland, or whatever, okay? Now, the protection afforded to the insurance industry is via what's called the legal reserve system. Now, the legal reserve system is a mandatory collective in which all insurance companies have to participate and contribute money. So what happens is insurance companies can go insolvent, can go out of business, just like investment companies can, just like banks can, any other corporate entity, for all kinds of reasons, bad management, whatever, stuff like that. So what happens when an insurance company goes belly up, or how are you protected from products that have originated from an insurance company? So the insurance industry is regulated by, or it's all insurance companies participate in what's called the legal reserve system. So I'm going to make it as simple as possible, but basically what happens if an insurance company goes bankrupt, goes belly up, goes insolvent, okay? The legal reserve system steps in, transfers all the insurance policies for all their clients to one or more other insurance companies. So if you happen to own a variable annuity or a insurance product with an insurance company that has gone insolvent, your policy remains intact. It gets transferred to another company who has agreed to take it on, and life goes forward. And there's no real change to you, except probably the letterhead on your policy, and the mail you get is going to have a different insurance company's name on it than your original insurance company. So the legal reserve system protects you from insolvency and the insurance side of the business. In terms of Athlon, Athlon itself, again, it goes back to is We are an independent financial advisory firm, and again, heavily regulated. We do get audited on an annual basis. Jim will tell you, and Mike Woods will tell you, and Mark Hood would tell you, and all the other people associated with us in the business who have offices get audited once a year to ensure that every one of our offices and every one of our financial advisors is compliant with the law. That audit is conducted by generally me or someone in the Athlon staff in conjunction with Cambridge Investment Research, our broker dealer. So there is oversight on an annual basis. Now, COVID had changed that a little bit. A lot of those audits generally were in person. Last 2 years, they've been more Zoom and virtual oriented, but they are going back to in-person audits probably this year and certainly next year. So in closing, there's a lot of organizations here and there's a lot of regulations, but they're all designed basically to make sure you, the client, and your money is protected. Now, the one thing I have to sort of end with to protect is all of these regulations and all of these protections in place do not protect you from losing money. So bad investments are bad investments. So hopefully, I think we have the best bunch of financial advisors in the country. So over extended period of time, they're not going to lose you your money. But these regulations and these protections do not protect you from bad investments. They just protect you from malfeasance, fraud, theft, and the kind of things that might happen at a corporate level, whether it's at the lower level at the Athlon like we are, at the broker dealer level, at the custodian level, or whatever, that you do not lose money in the sense that the Bernie Madoff situation was many, many years ago. So that's the unsexy stuff I need to tell you. I appreciate you listening. You're welcome to address any of these issues, with Mark and Jim and any of us at any point in time if you want more information. So thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Now I'll introduce the other side of the other founder down at Athlon is Chris Shipsky, and I'll pass the baton over to him.
Great. Well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. I see if I look around the panelist panel here, most of the pretty faces have been introduced, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce those pretty faces who have not been introduced yet. So let me sort of go around. It looks like Hollywood Squares here. So, my name is Christopher Shipsky, again, out of the Columbia, Maryland Athlon office. I am a CPA, a CFP, as well as a level 2 CFA candidate. I don't do that to pat myself on the back, but it will come into my conversation a little bit later. But let me introduce some of the other folks from our office and some other offices that have not been introduced yet. Maybe by name they have, but we have today with us Christopher Sadowski. Chris does work out of the Columbia office. He is an integral part of the advisory team down here in Columbia, Maryland. So Chris, if you could wave to the folks. And then we have Dawn Sadowski. Yeah, don't let the name, similarity fool you. They are related. But Dawn is our director of operations down here in Columbia, Maryland as well. Dawn, if you could wave to the folks. And it looks like I also have not introduced Mike Woods. Mike is from our Texas office. So Mike, give us your best Texas slang impersonation there.
They told me I couldn't talk tonight, so I didn't even know I had a live mic.
I did get a little note from Mark Hood. He was able to sort of join us tonight. Mark, did you want to say hi now or hold it till a little later?
I'll hold it to a little later. I got a little surprise. So.
Oh, okay. All right. We like surprises. So, all right. Well, I was given strict instructions to stay within my time limits or my screen will cut off. So I got the gift of gab. I'm originally from New Jersey. I'll do a lot of hand talking and swaying. So I'm going to kind of breeze right through it so that my screen isn't cut off and I don't get the proverbial yank from the sidelines here. So as I mentioned, I'm a CPA, CFP, and a level 2 CFA candidate. I went to Salisbury University, the illustrious Salisbury University here on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and go Fighting Seagulls, by the way. After I went and got an accounting degree, and I did like what most accounting degree folks do. I went into public accounting. So I went into public accounting for about 2 or 3 years or so. Came out, was an analyst with a couple of mutual fund firms. Ridex was the first firm, and then Calvert Funds, which is socially responsible mutual fund family, was the second firm that I worked for. And then after kind of playing those two realms, I came out and started my own firm in the late 90s. And then in 2010, I came to Cambridge. That's when things started to kind of come together a little bit. In 2011, I met Mike Engler. We were in a sort of a management sort of program at Cambridge. Mike and I met. We were accountability partners. You see how well that worked. We didn't really hold each other too accountable, but we survived. So, and then Mike and I really kind of formed Athlon at that point. A little bit down the road, we changed names to Athlon. That was in 2016. Mike, I think we hired some really high-priced New York firm to come down and put sticky notes on a board or something, right? And then choose the name Athlon, right? So at the time, because of my background, I had started my side of the firm with a tax and financial advisory or wealth division. So I had 2 divisions going on pretty much out the gate because of my background. I mentioned the CPA. And so it just sort of fit for me to start my firm originally when I came out with those 2 divisions. Well, then quickly after I met Mike and we sort of formed Athlon, we really kind of wanted to round out the picture of the divisions. We wanted to be very holistic and comprehensive to all of our clients. And so after sort of launching what would then become Athlon under the guise of a fully functioning tax practice and an investment management and wealth advisory division, Mike and I had this grand idea that we would round out those divisions. And now there are 4 fully functioning divisions, Athlon, and they were probably started right around 2016 as well. So now we have Athlon Tax and Bookkeeping. We have Athlon Wealth Advisors. We have Athlon Insurance Services. I'll get into more of these in a little bit. And then we also have what's called Athlon OSJ Services. Jim had mentioned that a little bit earlier. It's really sort of a supervisory or mentorship and support division for other advisors. So, I think that's what really was attractive to Jim and really to Mike about joining up together and sort of combining all together, is because as advisors, we really do look to try and be very comprehensive and provide as many different services, especially interrelated services for our clients. And so I think that was really attractive to Jim, really attractive to Mike, both Mike Woods and Mike Engler, attractive to Mark Hood. So that's sort of what brought us together, is this idea of being very comprehensive and being able to provide all of these various different services all in-house, instead of sending some of our very treasured clients down the road to somebody that might not necessarily have the same sort of philosophical beliefs that we do, and or feel the same way about emergency reserves or financial planning or that sort of stuff. So it was really nice to sort of be able to kind of keep all of those services in-house, if you will. And I use the air quotes on that because, even though some of the services and some of the areas or divisions are located outside of the different states, it doesn't mean with today's world that we can't provide those services virtually or across the United States for our clients. So even though there are some of the divisions that are housed here in Maryland, we do service Pennsylvania, we service Texas, we service pretty much all United States and even outside of the United States as well. So, so let me talk a little bit about the 4 divisions, sort of what we do in each of the divisions and what the services that we provide there are. And then I think I'll hand that back to Jim, and we can certainly open it up for questions a little bit. So the 4 different divisions: Athlon Tax and Bookkeeping is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. I'm a real geek and a real nerd for numbers. So, I always use this line that everybody loves. I get giddy about taxes. It is March 10th, so I'm not as giddy as I usually am, but so we're knee deep in the tax season. But Athlon Tax and Bookkeeping does provide individual and corporate tax preparation. It provides tax planning and analysis. So again, we talked to a lot of times about our clients about you got to get ahead of the game a lot of times with taxes. You really just don't want to sort of collect your documents at the end of the year, hand them off to your CPA to do your taxes, and then, get the end result and then see them again next year. There really has to be some planning along the way to implement some tax strategies, to get sort of ahead of the game, to understand really the moving parts of your tax picture. So not only do we do individual and corporate tax preparation, but we also do tax planning and analysis. So two different services in there. We also do bookkeeping for some of our corporate clients who need that sort of service. We have realty groups, we have movie production companies that we do services for. We have a lot of consulting services. So a lot of firms that we have as clients need bookkeeping services, and we do bookkeeping services for them year round. So we also do small business consulting, entity setup. If you need help kind of determining if an S corp is better than a C corp, or LLC versus sole prop, that sort of thing. So those are all the sort of services that we provide inside the Athlon Tax and Bookkeeping division. And remember, it's meant to be seamless across the different divisions. But for explanation's sake, I kind of divide them up into different areas. But they are sort of seamless, and we can glide from one area to another with our clients. So that's sort of Athlon Tax and Bookkeeping. The next will be Athlon Wealth Advisors. We have a process inside this division when any new person is introduced to our lives. This process is called DIP or DIP. Everybody is kind of taken through some sort of discovery process with the different branches that we go through. Each client is given sort of an information gathering type session or phase. And then each client is introduced or delivered a plan or proposal. And then it's their sort of decision whether they want to move forward with Athlon. And then if they do, there's some subsequent meetings that follow up. And the Athlon Wealth Advisory side of things, we do provide holistic or comprehensive type of financial planning and investment management services. So some of the areas that we do provide or talk to with our clients is Jim had mentioned this earlier, we do a retirement projection for all of our clients. We use the piece of software called eMoney to do that. Jim had mentioned that Money Guide Pro was one that was utilized in the past. Pretty much going forward, we'll probably be utilizing eMoney exclusively, but software changes all the time. Some get better, some get worse. So we like to keep our options open there. eMoney is the software that we use now, but that might not be the piece of software that we use 5 years from now. But it does a really good job of projecting out how much income or what number you should have in accumulated assets in order to provide the income that you need in retirement. So we always use the term here inside our walls of, with our clients is, do you know your number? Do you know the number of assets that you need to have so that you can flip the switch to retirement and have those assets generate income for you? That's what we utilize eMoney to do, is help us find that number for you. So, we also do, if we're managing money for our clients, we do a risk tolerance projection, a risk tolerance assessment, excuse me. And we use another piece of software called Riskalyze to do that. We do help our clients with asset allocation, whether the assets be inside a 401k or 403b program, or whether we are actively managing them in an IRA or brokerage account. So we offer asset allocation and money management services in that realm. We do manage what we call models in our investment advisory services. We utilize ETFs, exchange traded funds, and mutual funds. Any of our ETFs that are a little bit more aggressive or stock-based or equity-based, we usually have an additional step that we employ with those investments, which is a stop process on the downside to protect against wild gyrations in the market. So So we have a little bit of a unique investment management process there as well. And then we provide some of the other traditional financial planning services like education planning, estate planning, and areas like that, all sort of as one comprehensive picture. It's our job, we think, to make sure at the end, after meeting with our client, that all the different pieces to the client's financial pie are playing together nicely. So that's Athlon Wealth Advisors. The next division is Athlon Insurance Services, which really wraps nicely into some of those comprehensive services that we provide to some of our clients. Athlon Insurance Services provides not just the particular fit or the answer in terms of the life insurance policy or something like that, but it also provides a lot of analysis on what is the right amount of life insurance or right amount or right product to put it to use for our particular clients. So Athlon Insurance Services does cover life insurance, long-term care, disability, and then more traditional, what we call property and casualty areas like auto insurance, homeowners insurance, business insurance. So we put some science behind some of the numbers instead of just saying, well, what about $1 million worth of insurance? We want to put a little bit more science behind some of those figures. So our Athlon Insurance Services division provides a lot of support and a lot of analysis in that area. And then the fourth and final division, like I mentioned, is that Athlon OSJ Services. If any of you clients out there know someone who is getting into the advisory business, we do supervise 22 advisors right now across the United States. Goes as far west as Arizona, going to be on the West Coast at some point, completely on the West Coast at some point, as far north as New York right now. And I believe we are as far south. This could be the farthest south we are right now, but we're trying to get for that Florida office. So if you know anybody in Miami or something, wants to get an advisory business, you let us know. So that's our 4 divisions. Again, I think that was the attractiveness of kind of combining the different offices. So now we're firmly in Maryland, in Texas, and Pennsylvania, not to mention where the other advisors are located across the United States, to service most of our clients on a more comprehensive and holistic way. So, thank you, Jim.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. Before I move into some of the questions that were presented, I do apologize. I did not formally introduce the other planner we have up here, Chris Barr. Those of you who know Chris, and Chris, you want to give a little wave there? And thank you very much for that. And then Mark, do you want to jump in now, or do you want to wait until after I answer a few questions?
No, I'll just jump in now. I don't have too much really to add. Just really to introduce myself, I recognize a lot of familiar names on our attendee list, and we really appreciate it. And I wanted to apologize just because it was a little bit late today. I'll give you 3 reasons, and you can choose which one you think is the correct one. Number one, that Jim locked me in my office so that I wouldn't show up on here and really kind of give you the straight story and what it's like to work with Jim. The second is I just got back from Major League Baseball negotiations now that we've got a deal, so there will be a season this year, and I was a key part of that. Or number 3, I actually just spent the last couple of days in the hospital and got released today, so I have much energy to get out, and I'll let you choose between A, B, and C as to why I was a little bit late. But I did want to say hello to everyone, and thanks for joining us today. Jim and I'm sure covered all the main stuff, and then I caught Mike's great presentation on kind of the behind the scenes stuff on why, when working with us, what do all those names mean, and why does our money go to NFS? Who is that? Why doesn't it go out to Cambridge, or why doesn't it go to Jim and Mark? Those kinds of things. And then third, Chris really presented a super overview of ultimately why we decided to join all our forces. I mean, it really gives us a lot of opportunities to help everybody meet their goals. And it really integrates nicely with what we've done over the years and offers you a number of different services. So I'll just close really quickly with, and I'm sure Jim might cover this in some of the questions, but please give us input, whether it be today or afterwards, in terms of how are there things that you would like from us that we're not providing, or that might be different, or anything like that, so that we can plan on those things. And as advisors, we can help get you those resources. So for example, one of the things that Grace and, well, really everybody have been planning are perhaps some events over the course of the year, just informational events, maybe a half-hour webinar, for example. I've been hearing a lot of this stuff about cryptocurrency. So what is that? And maybe we can provide an informational seminar on that, or maybe something on the basics of Social Security. So we'd also like, as part of your own process of going through your life financially, to learn about this stuff, and so that you educate yourself and feel good about some of the recommendations that we're going through and helping you through. So please, as we go through, your input is incredibly valuable as we go through the years and keep and in our meetings. So that was it.
All right,
Thanks, Jim.
thanks, Mark. It's a good thing I found that key to the office.
Yeah.
Now, I know we indicated that we wanted to keep this to about 45 minutes, and we're kind of running up against that, but there's a couple of questions that were presented. I just want to follow up on that. First of all, generically, people are saying, well, some people want to know, well, who are we going to deal with, particularly up here in State College? Well, again, the relationship that we have with you folks and is going to continue with primarily myself, Mark, and Chris, with the relationships that we have. But our dream with this whole endeavor is to bring in the expertise that we have down in the Columbia, Maryland office and the Denton, Texas office. At some point in time, you may have interactions with some of these folks in concert with us as well. So, but we're still going to maintain that personal relationship that we have. Kiddingly, those here in State College who love the waffle shop, because Mike, you know, everything is great in State College, that we'll still be able to have those breakfasts and lunches and going forward from there. So the relationship is still with us, but some of these other players are going to be brought on board because this industry is sophisticated and it moves fast. And we have a tremendous amount of expertise we can tap into, which we're very excited about. One of the other questions that came up is that, knowing, for example, myself, that I'm not 25 anymore, and what happens when I go to the great leprechaun in the sky type of thing. Well, again, another feature of this relationship is we call in the industry a succession plan. And very simply, what that means is that should anything happen to any of us in the State College office or the Columbia, Maryland office or the Denton, Texas office, we all have built in what we call succession plans. So our goal is not only to take care of our families in relation to that, but actually you're equal. We want to take care of you folks as well. So if anything ever does happen to any of us, you know full well that there's a team of people that are going to be ready to jump in, offer the same quality and type of service that we've had in the past. So you're not left out in the cold in relation to that. Another question that came through was, are we primarily only in Pennsylvania, meaning the State College office? Now, there may be some folks, and I haven't seen the list, that are out of state who are tapping into this. Currently, our operation here in State College, we're in about 26, we have clients in about 26 different states and 2 foreign countries. So we're fairly well spread out throughout the country and also the world in and of itself. So we're not just located here locally. We have people throughout the United States and internationally that we deal with from that perspective. So it's fairly broad-based as we work and move forward. But those are the questions that I saw very simply that came up. I'd like to close with this because, again, we're hitting on our time period here, is that Chris very much said it, is the holistic financial planning approach. We felt we offered that in the past, but this really kind of tightens it up a little bit, puts some bows on the package, and really brings it to a much more comprehensive program that we're able to offer folks from the holistic standpoint of financial planning. We're just not one segment of it. We want to be able to offer you services. So if you have questions, if we don't have the answers right here immediately, we have 2 offices in Maryland and Texas. We can reach out to their expertise to help us moving forward. So that's pretty much my wrap right there. Grace is going to show us right here. This is our new logo, so to speak. Our mailing address hasn't changed. You see in the middle there, there is a generic State College at Athlon Advisors email. So you can certainly use that if you forget or misplace our individual email addresses. That's certainly going to be available for you to use, and we'll be able to answer questions and address your needs through that. And then, like I said, my children are very happy that we're actually into the modern technology now, that we do have a website, or part of a great website, I should say. And that's what we have down there. But that being said, I thank you for your time, your patience. Have an enjoyable weekend. For those up here in Pennsylvania, we got to battle a wicked snowstorm, but we'll be okay. And as we move through the rest of the month, have a great St. Patrick's Day. Thanks again.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep. Take care.